And welcome everybody to the final yard here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I am your host, Louis Sung, and the Miami Dolphins are officially 5-1 for the first time since 2002. I was 9 years old the last time the Miami Dolphins have been this good, or at least have even looked remotely this good. Mr. Quirk, I am joined by you today. How are we feeling right now with the Miami Dolphins sitting at the record that they have?
You know, looking at, first of all, in the micro picture, and of course, we'll get into more of that. I was a bit, I hate to say it, I was a bit of a grumpy Gus last week after, that Giants game, despite winning by double digits and covering. I feel better today in the micro and in the macro. We're not only watching a good football team, we're not only watching a winning football team, a team that's in sole possession of first place of the AFC East, but this is the most fun I've ever had watching a Miami Dolphins team. This is a lot different than watching us trudge through games with Chad Pennington and the Wildcat. I mean, sure, we had some fun times here and there, but we get to watch the most fun team in the NFL. I don't think that there's anyone else in the NFL other than maybe the Chiefs, maybe the Eagles, maybe the Bills who could even get into that conversation of a team who's just absolutely fascinating, has unbelievable star power, and is a confirmed Super Bowl contender at this point.
And just so everybody is aware of what's going on here, once again, the Miami Dolphins, again, it's a bad team. It's a bad team. I have to understand that it's a bad team. So we expect this kind of performance. But the way that everything went today, this is exactly what we were hoping the Miami Dolphins would do. They cleaned up their act. They got past whatever the heck that was against the I can't remember the name right now. Like, who did they just beat?
Giants.
The Giants. Yes, the New York Giants. Like, it's like my brain is just like not able to process everything that I'm looking at here. So yeah, they had a meh game against the Giants, in which game they actually put up 30 points. And then they went ahead and they put up 42 points on the Carolina Panthers, who are winless even now. So I'm sure that Frank Reich is not particularly happy with what everything is going on with Carolina. I'm so sorry for him, but everything in Miami is just wonderful. Now, grant you, there was a bit of a slow start at the beginning of that game. There was some concern about the defense, that their Dolphins defense once again was just getting run back up and down the field the whole time. They scored 14 points on us before we even scored once. And there was concern there. I don't know what the Dolphins were trying to do weird 3rd and 1, throw the ball backwards, and that's going to be called a fumble because why are you throwing it backwards? Just weird things happening. But they, like I said, cleaned up their acts, got themselves together, and even on defense improved a lot. Although I would like to point out one thing, and it's very interesting to me. Did you notice an uptick in defensive performance the moment that they started to blitz? Almost kind of like Josh Boyer's defense used to back in the day.
Yeah, it was almost night and day the last 3 quarters versus the first 4 quarters. When I was hearing on the broadcast, the Dolphins are used to getting tons of pressure with only 4. Are you sure about that? I'm not used to that.
Yeah, it was. I thought to myself, what is he talking about? Getting pressure with 4 guys. We don't get pressure with 4 guys. We have to throw like 5 or 6 guys at it. Just like it's weird. We have Vic Fangio now, and he was supposed to revolutionize the Dolphins defense. And it seems to me like the most effective way that we get anything done is by just doing what Josh Boyer did. So just keep blitzing the quarterback, and eventually he's going to crash and burn, which against somebody like a Bryce Young, who is a rookie, you can get away with doing stuff like that. Obviously, you're not going to look at Bryce Young and say, oh, he's got this handled. He's a seasoned pro veteran who's not going to fall to pressure. No, he absolutely will. He absolutely will fall to pressure, and he did. Now, his stats weren't awful by any stretch. I mean, 23 of 38 for 217 yards and a touchdown. He didn't throw any interceptions. He almost threw an interception, but that was more of a tip drill than anything. So the way that I look at it is that Dolphins defense kind of went back to their old roots a little bit. Maybe Vic Fangio finally just threw his hands up and said, you know what, I'm just going to let these guys run wild. And that seemed to work for the most part. Maybe it's more intricate on film than it is just looking at it the first time. I would have to watch the game again, have to see what the 3 yards per carry crew is talking about to be able to get an idea of that, which, by the way, I'm a little upset. Do you know why, Mike? Do you know why I'm a little bit frustrated here?
Hit me.
So my prizepicks.com, I used the promo code 5 and I got $100 matched on my first deposit. So you can go ahead and do that, everybody. The way, ladies and gentlemen, I had Savon Ahmed at 26.5 rushing yards. He had one more run for that touchdown and it only put him at 23. So all I needed after that was an under on Ezekiel Elliott's rushing yards and for Stephon Diggs to score a touchdown. And I would have been a very rich man tonight. But, oh, well, life is not fair. As Ska would say, life's not fair, is it?
Yeah,
no, it's not.
Brooks carries might have sank you there.
Yeah, Brooks carry. And by the way, Chris Brooks, for anybody who was not aware, he actually had to be helped off the field near the tail end of that game when they put all the backups in. So he hopefully is okay. Hopefully it's not as bad as it looked. He was writhing on the football field for a little bit. He tried to get back up, fell right back down again, could not stand up, could not put any weight on that leg. So hopefully it's nothing season ending because Chris Brooks, like, I get it. It was the backup group, right? But even then, the backup group was still doing some good stuff against the starting Panthers defense. He was bulldozing everybody. He was all the way down the right sideline. It was a beautiful thing to watch. But hopefully Chris Brooks is okay. We're not going to have Devon Achane for at least 4 weeks. Well, I guess 3 weeks now. We'll have him for 3 after. It's going to be 3 weeks that we won't have him now. So I'm hoping that we're not going to have any more issues. I know Jeff Wilson has been relegated to come back to practice, so that's a good thing. The Dolphins are going to get some reinforcements on that front. But speaking of running backs, I said this on Twitter, and I'm kind of getting ratioed for it, but I don't think people understand what it is that I'm trying to say. There has been zero impact on the running game by the loss of Devon Achane, at least so far. And the reason why is because the same reason that I've been saying this all along. Raheem Mostert is a stud of a running back. Is he as explosive as Devon Achane? No, I guess not. But, I mean, that's already saying a lot about Devon Achane. It's not saying anything about Raheem Mostert because Raheem Mostert is also very much an explosive player. 17 carries, 115 yards, 2 touchdowns rushing, 6.8 yards a carry. And, oh, by the way, 3 catches for 17 yards and a touchdown in and of itself with a great block by Durham Smythe on that first touchdown. Raheem Mostert, I don't care what anybody says about running backs being on the wrong side of 30. Did you see him hurdle that defender, Mike? Did you see him do what he did? That doesn't look like a 30-year-old running around to me. That looks like a dude in his prime was like, listen, I didn't start playing running back until way later in my career. I'm good. I'm my body says I'm 31, but my actual age, like the age says 31, my actual body says I'm 26. I'm good. I'm fine.
People forget just how complete of a back Raheem Mostert is because of the injuries that he's had dating back to his time in San Francisco. The dude, I honestly didn't even know he had that in his bag, the jumping 4 feet over a defender. We already know about the home run speed, running over 20 miles per hour multiple times this year. We already know that he's pretty lethal catching the ball out of the backfield. We know he can make guys miss in space. We know he can bulldoze guys. People just forget that this is an absolute dude. And I was looking at the stats as that game was coming to a close. Forgive me for not being locked into Mike White, but the Dolphins are not just number 1 in the NFL by nearly 100 yards. They are also number 1 in passing yards per game. They are also number 1 for rushing yards per game. And they're the only team who's in the top 5 in both passing and rushing. And they mentioned that on the broadcast of when you think about this Dolphins team, you think about Tua and Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. This is the best rushing team in the NFL so far. And they just lost a guy who is taking the NFL by storm, running for 4 touchdowns in a game, run for a couple more touchdowns the following game, who's just racking up as many footballs as I can imagine in his Miami apartment now. Oh, yeah, this is my first, second, third, fourth touchdown. And it's just because a guy like Raheem Mostert is able to just really keep this offense going. And he had a little bit of trouble at the beginning of the game getting going, but he just got better and better as time went on. And that 49-yard run was just a thing of beauty down the left sideline.
This whole offense is... We've talked about the offense so much over the past few weeks, and it's such a relief. That's the word. It's a relief. As Dolphins fans, it's relieving to see that our team can put up points practically at will, because for the past 10 years, We have watched the Miami Dolphins struggle and agonize over just being able to move the football. Just getting first downs was like holding your breath to see if maybe they'd get into the red zone. And now all of a sudden we're looking at this Dolphins offense, the most prolific offense in a NFL history leading up to today, and probably still is according to the statistics. I refuse to believe otherwise at this point. Even now, these Dolphins are an offense unlike any have ever seen. Yes, we got our butts whooped in Buffalo. Okay, that's one anomaly. People were looking at it saying the Dolphins are frauds. We were concerned for a little bit because it's like, okay, we still can't beat Buffalo. Sometimes there are just teams that match up well against you. I was on with the Rock Pile Report. You guys should go check him out if you're looking for some AFC East rival talk. But he was saying that no matter what, somehow the Jets always seem to just torture the Buffalo Bills. This inexplicable. Can't explain it. Logic says that it never should happen, and yet the Jets always find a way to rattle Josh Allen. Meanwhile, the Dolphins, no matter how good they are, no matter how awesome they rack up their points, they always seem to get stomped by Buffalo. Maybe it's just a matchup thing. Who knows? Maybe we just have to hope and pray that when the playoffs come around, we don't get matched up against Buffalo. That's pretty much all we can hope for at that point, it feels like. But what I want to go ahead and now just highlight here real quick. Tyreek Hill, 6 catches, 163 yards. Him and his cramping, man. Like, how hard is he running? Is that his secret to being able to run as fast as he does, that he just literally runs harder than everybody else and he has to keep going back to the locker room to get more IVs?
Let's get a Fitbit on that, man. They were talking about right after he left with the cramp about how often he's running downhill or downfield and so forth, but also how much he's just always in motion pre-snap. It feels like just get a Fitbit on that, man. I'm pretty sure he would pass any border collie out there. But yeah, just it's amazing. You can think that he's having a quiet day, and then bang, 47-yard touchdown, and then he makes the most spectacular play of the day until Raheem Mostert's hurdle, of course. He's just I know that these lists don't really matter when people say, "Oh, who's the best tandem? Is it AJ Brown and Smith, or is it Waddle and Hill? Is it Higgins and Chase and so forth?" And none of those things really matter because no one wins a Super Bowl because they said, "Well, you're number one in these subjective rankings of who has the best wide receiver and so forth." But every single week that I watch Tyreek Hill, I just think this dude does things that no one else does. Yeah, there's guys with unbelievable hands. There's unbelievable route runners and a ton of explosive players. I'm not trying to take anything away from a guy like Jamar Chase or a guy like Justin Jefferson or so forth. But just how dangerous this dude is that you always have to protect against him beating you over the top because they can lull you to sleep, and then bang, you just gave up a quick touchdown. But while you're taking that away, underneath, he can just use and abuse you. And there's so many plays where you see a guy like Braxton Berrios running wide open, and you're thinking, yeah, Tyreek Hill has a bit to do with that. You have to pay that guy so much attention. It's just, I know I'm not exactly shattering the world with the take of, hey, Tyreek Hill's pretty good. But it's just something that week in and week out, you're astounded by. And you're like, oh, yeah, you know what? That might have been worth those couple picks.
Yeah, it was definitely worth it. Tyreek Hill has completely revolutionized this offense. Mike McDaniel, I am sure, is very happy to be able to have Tyreek Hill. And I still remember before the Hill trade was happening, we were looking at Cedric Wilson as being the new guy, the new weapon that the Miami Dolphins were going to get to play with. We were going to build our offense around Cedric Wilson, who had himself a fairly good career with the Dallas Cowboys before getting to Miami. It's kind of shades of Albert Wilson from Kansas City when he got to Miami, and we thought, oh, there's something here with this guy. He's been underutilized. We can make the most of what he's got. And for a little bit, there was something there that we could use. Unfortunately, he never got back to full strength. I don't know where he is now. But it's the same thing here. If the Dolphins had to be forced to use Cedric Wilson, I sincerely believe that this offense would not be nearly as powerful as it is now. But that's not saying much, right? It's Tyreek Hill, for God's sakes. So sometimes making the investment for the elite level player, yeah, you've made the point. It's absolutely worth it. When you want to win, you have to go get the guys that you know for a fact are going to be able to make an impact on your football team. And there can't be anything behind it. There cannot be any like, oh, well, he might be good if he comes back healthy. He might be good if there is no legal troubles to have to deal with. Tyreek Hill has had problems in the past. He's gotten past them. So we moved beyond that, and now Tyreek Hill is just having fun doing backflips, getting fined by the NFL for having too much fun. And I am sure, 100% sure, that he will be fined again for the fact that he took the selfie with that guy's phone. God forbid. Mind you, it's going to be used in the next commercial. It will be used in the next commercial for the NFL.
The NFL they're going to quick on that.
They're going to produce the commercial with the money that they're finding Tyreek Hill.
They scrubbed that from Twitter as quickly as possible. Someone sent me a tweet of the video a couple minutes after it happened, and by the time I clicked it, it was deleted and could not find it. They just used the little Men in Black stick and just erased it from all of Twitter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure, but too bad. Because unless the NFL is going to nuke everybody's Twitter accounts who reposted it, Josh Houts, he's all over that. It's not going to go away. The NFL is absolutely going to have to deal with what just happened. And I am sure that there is footage somewhere, and it will be used in the next promotional material. You can't hide NFL. Stop trying to hide people having fun. Yes, the Dolphins are good. Get over it. Okay, Tyreek Hill is an elite wide receiver. Get over it. He's also elite at having fun. Get over it. My God, man. If it had been Gronk and his spikes, nobody would have said a word. If it had been anybody, nobody would have said a word. I truly feel that. I really believe that at this point. There's no reason. Like Tyreek Hill does a backflip and does something funny with the phone. Okay, whatever. Do you think the Carolina Panthers feel any worse emotionally having given up the touchdown than if Tyreek had just handed the ball to the referee and walked off as opposed to doing what he did? Does anybody truly believe that we're sparing anybody's feelings by penalizing them for doing stuff like that? Because we all know that if it had been the other way around, the Panthers would absolutely be doing the same thing. I am sure that if DJ Chark could do backflips, he would do something like that. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, it's funny that the NFL kind of has that NCAA piece to them where, when the NCAA says that they're taking away your wins for a year or they're taking away your Orange Bowl victory, and you're just thinking, can you really do that? Because fans remember these things happening. We watched it. We have it on TV. It's as much as they try and go away from the whole no fun league moniker, it's hard to get away from your roots. Watching guys have fun after doing something Herculean on the field. They're just like, yeah, nope, too much fun, pass.
So now the Dolphins are going to be facing off against the Philadelphia Eagles. That's going to be what's coming up next. That game is going to be tough. So Tua's already beaten one of the Alabama bosses, if you will. You want to look at it in video game form. This is like the boss levels. So he got past Bryce Young. That was like the first boss of the game. That's like, okay, he got past his Alabama buddy Bryce Young. Or actually, I don't think they were. I don't think was Tua there when Bryce Young was there. I don't think he was. Bryce Young got there after.
They said Tua was the one that recruited Bryce.
No, that was Waddle.
Well, they brought up. They said that toward the end, Tua had something to do with getting Bryce Young to decommit from USC and end up at Bama.
Okay. So Tua is going to be facing off against Jalen Hurts now. And he's already beat him once in preseason. If you want to get technical about it, Dolphins beat the Eagles. I mean, I don't think that really counts for much, but it was already done once, kinda. So very important that I think for the Dolphins, they need to 100%. They need to get Connor Williams back because that Eagles front seven way stronger than whatever Carolina can throw at them. Because Brian Burns, he's good, but he was hampered by an ankle injury, and even then he was able to make some plays happen. So don't want to do that.
That's something that, coming into this year, we talk so much about make sure that Tua is falling correctly. Make sure that Tua is throwing the ball away, sliding, getting out of bounds, what have you. Almost to the point that we're just washing our hands saying, yeah, the offensive line is going to be what it is. And it's just up to Tua, once the offensive line is bad, to protect himself. And I get it. Again, like you said, it's the Panthers. And last week it was the Giants and so forth. But man, the offensive line, I know that Tua is getting the ball out quicker and quicker, but the offensive line is something that I don't think is getting really enough credit for just how good it's been and how it's helped facilitate this run game. And as much flack, I had to put my hand up. I washed my hands of Austin Jackson. I said he's never going to be that guy. I've seen enough. I've seen enough pass, and he's been terrific this year. And he's been absolutely mauling guys through the echo of the whistle, to quote the late Bobby Bowden. But you saw him get upfield on that Ahmed touchdown. I mean, he's getting out into space and he's burying guys. Austin Jackson has been a huge piece of helping this offense, particularly the running game, go. And obviously going to have probably their biggest test of the year going up against that nightmare front seven of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Butch Barry is I don't know what happened to Austin Jackson. Butch Barry left him a sticky note in his locker or something and said, "Get your crap together." And he did. And he did. The question was never whether or not Austin Jackson had the physical capability. He is a physical specimen. It was all up here. He couldn't get it. He was not figuring out. Fundamentals were awful constantly. Footwork, awful. Handwork, awful. All of it, terrible. The only thing that was good about him was the potential, just because of how physically gifted he is. Butch Barry showed up out of Denver, pissed off everybody in Denver, got landed in Miami, and has completely turned around this offensive line. Completely. Now, mind you, we haven't faced anybody like Buffalo since Buffalo, and Buffalo didn't look that great. Granted, Liam Eichenberg was at center, not Connor Williams. That makes a difference. It does make a difference. Also, Kendall Lamb was at left tackle, not Teron Armstead, and it will not be Teron Armstead against the Eagles. It will continue to be Kendall Lamb, who, for all the talk about Teron Armstead, Kendall Lamb is, I truly believe this. If there was a tackle needy team out there and they were looking for who can they get to try to save their season before it's too late, if the Dolphins went fishing for an early round draft pick and they said, we'll give you Kendall Lamb, I firmly believe that at this point, some team out there would be desperate enough to make that trade. Kendall Lamb is playing that well. He really is. Somebody would be willing to give him a third round pick for Kendall Lamb at this juncture. Not that the Dolphins would do that, nor would it be a wise move. And I do not endorse this. But I do believe that at this point, Kendall Lamb is playing better than a lot of starters on a lot of NFL teams right now. And that's without having to go into their into their bullpen and pull out a backup. Actual organized designated starters for teams. Kendall Lamb is playing better than them.
Yeah, and we're starting to be able to further isolate where issues are, particularly on the offensive line. Sort of like the first couple of years with Tua, you're thinking, okay, there's an issue at head coach in terms of the relationship there, as well as the system. There's an issue at offensive coordinators. There's an issue with playmakers. There's an issue with the offensive line. I believe in Tua's second year, 3 of the 5 worst pass protecting offensive linemen in the league were all Dolphins. And you're looking at so many different variables. You're saying, is Tua not the guy, or is it all these things that are affecting him? And obviously, as time has gone on, we have seen that Tua was fighting a pretty uphill battle against a lot of things holding him back. And with the offensive line, we were seeing that as well, using so many high draft picks and going out and getting a couple of pricey free agents. And the offensive line play was still just not good. And then you replace Applebaum, send him back to college, and go and get Butch. And look what he's putting together with Kendall Lamb and Wynn, and obviously we've known what Hunt is, and we know what Connor Williams is, but also what he's done, as we've said, with Austin Jackson. And so you know that you have that offensive line coach locked down and are able to sort of build this depth out with the offensive line. The best thing you can say about an offensive lineman is not saying his name. The less you say an offensive lineman's name in a game, unless he's, a superstar like a Trent Williams, but you're not hearing Kendall Lamb's name during this game. You're not hearing about Wynn during this game, and so that's on the positive side. On the negative side, I think that may tell us all we need to know about Liam Eichenberg, is that there's really no excuse anymore at this point. But hey, I washed my hands of Austin Jackson before, and that worked out well. So I'll try and work my voodoo magic for the Dolphins fan base once again and wash my hands of Liam Eichenberg. Maybe he'll turn into Zach Martin after that. But as of now,
wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be something if Liam Eichenberg could miraculously become a star? All right. So we're going to go ahead and call it here. If you guys need some more Miami Dolphins post-game stuff, I'm posting a link in the chat room below. On playback right now, the Inside Leverage crew, which is partnering with the 5 Reasons Sports Network, they are also doing some post-game stuff. So make sure you just head on over there right now. I am posting the link even right now as we speak. So make sure you're joining in with them over there at playback. That's going to be it for us here on the YouTube channel. Make sure you're using that promo code 5, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. That's promo code 5 FIVE. Go to PricePicks.com, deposit $100, and let PricePicks give you $100 of their dollars for you to play with. Get started winning today. Don't pick Savon Ahmed like I did. Oops. All right, Michael, thank you for joining me. And for everybody who still wants more post-game stuff, the link is now in the chat room below. Play back right now on the 5 Reasons Sports. We will see you there.